The kick came fast, brutal, and undeserved. In the middle of a dusty training yard, boots slammed against her head, sending her crashing into the ground as laughter echoed from the ones who should have been her brothers in arms. The impact rattled through her skull, blood trickled down her temple, and the world tilted in dizzy silence. Yet in that moment of pain and humiliation, she did not cry, she did not scream. She simply pressed her palms into the dirt, rose slowly, and locked her steady eyes on the men who thought she was too weak to belong. What none of them knew was that before the day was over, their arrogance would unravel in front of the highest ranks of command. And when 3 generals arrived, their unit's fate would be sealed forever. If you believe in kindness, justice, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Armed Forces Stories. Your support keeps these powerful true stories alive. The training yard was supposed to be a place of discipline, brotherhood, and endurance. Instead, for her, it had become a battleground of prejudice. Some soldiers resented her presence from the first day she arrived, young, disciplined, carrying the weight of proving herself in a world where few believed she belonged. The kick to her head wasn't the first time they'd tried to break her, but it was the cruelest. Others stood around, some silent, some entertained, too afraid or too complicit to intervene. Yet even with the ringing in her ears, she refused to let them see weakness. She pushed herself to her feet, wiped the blood with the back of her hand, and stood at attention as if nothing had happened. Her mind flashed back to her training before she came here. She had endured nights of freezing rain, days of running until her legs nearly collapsed, and endless drills designed to crush the spirit. And still, she had passed every trial, not because it was easy, but because she had learned that strength was not about avoiding pain. It was about standing through it. The soldiers who laughed at her had never known her journey. They didn't know the loss she carried, the sacrifices she had made to wear the uniform, or the determination that kept her going when others quit. What happened next was something no one expected. The base had been scheduled for a surprise review by high command. Generals often arrived unannounced to observe units in action, looking for signs of weakness, failure, or misconduct. And on that very day, within minutes of her standing back up after the brutal assault, the roar of vehicles and the presence of brass transformed the training yard into a stage. The same soldiers who had mocked her straightened nervously, their arrogance fading as 3 generals stepped forward, eyes sharp, observing everything. The injury on her head did not go unnoticed. The blood still marked her temple. When asked what had happened, she stood silent at first, unwilling to break the code of loyalty. But the truth rarely stays buried for long. Whispers spread, and one brave recruit finally stepped forward, voice shaking but resolute, recounting what had been done to her. The laughter, the cruelty, the kick that had sent her to the ground, it all spilled into the open under the watchful gaze of command. The atmosphere shifted instantly. The generals did not yell. They did not rage. They simply exchanged grim looks, the kind that carried decades of leadership, the kind that weighed justice heavily. Orders were given quickly, efficiently. The soldiers responsible were removed on the spot, their careers over in a single decision. But the punishment did not stop there. The unit itself, tainted by a culture that allowed cruelty and silence, was officially shut down. A ripple of shock ran through the base. What had once been a proud squad was dissolved, its legacy erased because of the arrogance and brutality of a few. And she? She stood quietly, her expression unreadable. She had not sought revenge, only respect. What she received instead was something greater. Vindication. The generals spoke to her privately, acknowledging her strength, her discipline, and her endurance. They told her that soldiers like her were the future, that resilience and integrity mattered more than cruelty masked as toughness. For the first time since her arrival, she felt truly seen, not as a target of doubt, but as a soldier whose place had been earned. In the days that followed, word of what happened spread beyond the base. Her story traveled through whispers in the barracks, through letters home, through the voices of those who had once stayed silent, but now found courage. For many, she became a quiet symbol, not because she fought back with violence, but because she stood her ground with dignity until justice spoke louder than cruelty. She did not gloat, did not celebrate the downfall of others. She simply continued forward, carrying herself with the same quiet strength that had carried her through every challenge. But for those who saw her, she became living proof that even when the world kicks you down, even when the odds are stacked against you, standing back up can change everything. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Armed Forces Stories. These stories of resilience and justice deserve to be heard by the world. And before we end, here's a special request. What does true strength mean to you? Share your answer in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts.